and we're generalizing here, but that's really what's happening. They left their countries originally because of governments who were corrupt and who were, all the whether policemen coming by and taking their little mordita in Spanish that they call it, a little bite of what you have. Um, they're here to work. They're here to take care of their family. Government, stay out of my business. I'll take care of things. Uh, that's about as Republican as it gets.
If there's one thing you would hope that someone sitting in this room today would take away from this panel discussion, what would that one thing be?
Again, that gets back to the rhetoric. The rhetoric, those words are so hurtful and so go against the efforts that we're trying to do. I have so many people around me that want to be a part of the political process, want to be a part of the Republican Party, but when they hear that rhetoric and vitriol, it turns them off and they stay on the sidelines. If we change that kind of attitude from our side, from the inside, we can get those people outside to come in and work with us and grow the party and help make sure we have a fiscally conservative America going forward.
Thank you very much, Leo.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, to the Pachyderms.
Dr. Jean Howard Hill. I am the National Chair for the National Republican African American Caucus, and I'm also a professor at the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga, teaching political science. I'm a research consultant and a commentator and political strategist, among some other things as well.
So what was your motivation to participate in today's panel?
I found this a real opportunity to be able to bring forth to the table and out and open some of the things that are important to this party in terms of inclusion. And I think that a lot of times what we have gotten when people who are white within the Republican Party are very sincere and wanting to know what can we do to bring African Americans into the party, we tend to not want to tell, or we find the people who have not brought in anyone, have not headed an organization, and can't even count the number of people they brought in on 5 fingers. And so we don't need that. We need people who are out there at the grassroots level and are able to talk to other African Americans and have actually had a track record of bringing them in. I mean, if you want to know how to do something, if I wanted to know how to fix my commode, I certainly would not go and ask an electrician. I would find a plumber. And so it's important that we look at individuals who have been out there. I'm a 32-year veteran African American Republican who started recruiting in the 80s, and I have seen substantial growth in African Americans. And so being able to let them know how we recruit and then also how we sustain African Americans and keep them from having to go in closets.
What do you see as the number one impediment to African Americans joining the Republican Party or getting involved in political clubs like the Pachyderm?
Well, there are a number of things. First of all, Republicans talk in such mean rhetoric. And whether they mean to or not, there are many Republicans who say things and they don't really count. They don't weigh their words. And those words really are hurting. And so we can't distinguish between whether or not it's just ignorance because you don't know the facts or if it's racism. I mean, there are things I have to stand and scratch my head and say, did you say that? And so we have to be careful with what we say, the rhetoric. It's too much rhetoric that's not factually based. If it's fact, say it. But when we just start espousing things out and just spewing out things that have nothing to do with facts. Secondly, we've got to stop African American tokenism, where you got 1 or 2 African Americans like flies in a bowl of buttermilk, and they're there, and they're supposed to represent us, and they have no clue as to the issues that are facing the African American community. And they have no interest also in other African Americans coming into the party. That's a reality. There are African American Republicans who do not want anyone else in the party because they want to be the exclusive token individual, and we have to stop that. And then third, we have to be welcoming. We have to be welcoming in terms of inviting African Americans into the party. And then after they come into the party, we have to be nice, at least respectful. And we're not just interested in coming in and having a seat at the eating table, but we need to be a part of the policy. We bring perspectives, we bring ideas, and those things needs to be shared. And what I found is that when we're able to be a part of the boards and leadership positions, we bring those perspectives, and when we do bring them, there are many people who say, well, I didn't think about it that way. And so if we're not at a meaningful place within the Republican Party, what difference does it make? We get tired of coming. We're invited to meetings, but we don't serve. We don't get a chance to speak. And those who do get a chance to speak, it's because they will espouse all kinds of craziness. That's really not republicanism. As I gave the different, the platform and also the ideology of the party. And when you look at that, you have to say, wow, this sounds like something that African Americans can come on board with. And they are, and they want to. But they're afraid that when they come to the Republican Party, that they're going to have to look at issues from white eyes. And if you're black, you can't see them. And so if we stick with truth, then truth comes in all colors, all shapes, and all forms. And that's going to be the way in which we're going to bring African Americans into the party.
So specifically, what would then be a mechanism that you see that pachyderms have been working towards to accomplish those goals?
I don't know, because based on my local pachyderm, I can't really tell you. I really can't. Now, there are individuals who have been very nice and very inviting, but when I go to my pachyderm meeting, I'm not on the board. I haven't been asked to speak. When I walk in, I have to, sit at the table like everybody else. And it's not that you're asking for a special place, but it's like pastoring. When someone comes into your church and you've never seen them before, you want to go over to them and say, welcome, so glad you came. Please come again and become a part of our family. We want you here. And so when we can learn to do those kinds of things, we're going to see people who are willing to come. And so that's the beginning. And secondly, when we see people who have lesser qualifications, and sometimes no qualifications, we come in padded with qualifications. They get the positions, they move up the ladder, and we stay where we are, and we're told, wait your turn. What's the turn? Because the same rules do not apply. And so we've got to get some commonality with rules for acceptance within the Republican Party. And we've got to understand that the Republican Party is not a white party. It was birthed out of abolitionists and free black individuals. And we need to go back to that. And when we go back to that and stop the ownership and the control mechanisms that we put in place, we're going to find that all kinds of good people are just going to come out of the woodworks, whether they're white, black, Hispanic, Asian, or whatever, because people are looking for something. They're wanting change in America. They're wanting to see America be blessed. They're wanting to see America's government become responsible. These are not just Republican wishes or desires. These are desires of people who are looking and saying, our government has become something that we can't even identify with. And so I think that if we want to change, whether we're pachyderms or Republicans, we're really going to have to step back and try to look at things through the eyes of those to whom we have excluded, whether we've done that intentionally or unintentionally.
Leo Vasquez said that one of the issues in the Hispanic community was that Republicans don't view Hispanics as having the same values, and he was saying we do have the same values in the Republican Party. Do you see that being a similar issue with the African American community?
Absolutely. I mean, with those values that I set forth and the ideology of the party, I have not. Let me tell you what I did. Usually when I speak to black audiences, I talk about that first, and I ask them, how many of you can get aboard with this? And usually I get a 97 to 100% audience that raises their hands. And then when I tell them, you're a Republican, they're like, oh, no, we're not. And what they're basically saying is that those may be the values, but we don't see them reflected in the Republican Party. That's where the problem is. We need to go back and take those same values and begin to live those values, practice those values. And if we do, we won't have to go out and invite African American Republicans. Or African Americans, period. They will come and gravitate to the party because they believe in accountability. They believe in the moral factors. They believe in civil rights. They believe in all of those things that we're talking about as Republicans. But when we get on single issues that are one-sided, like immigration, those kinds of things. And we're thinking and we're saying, wait a minute, we didn't come here as immigrants. The majority of us, we came as slaves. And so if you're saying that about them, could you be saying the same about us? And also, we're looking at history. The fact that when whites came to America, they weren't documented. And so, so we think about things like that. And so this land was taken from American Indians. And so we have to, you cannot be blind to history. History is there to help us to be able to understand. And even the Bible says, be kind to the aliens among you. That was given to Israel. And if you be kind to the aliens among you and treat them fairly, they will not be a thorn in your side, but they will come to know your God and to worship and love your God.
So, if you could say something to, this is going to be prepared part of this for a website. So, what would you say to a young black conservative who clicks on the Pachyderm and is looking at this interview? What's one thing you would say to a young black conservative who's trying to decide, whether or not they want to become part of the Republican Party?
I would say to them, become a part, but do your research. Go back and know your history. Know your American history, know your black history, and know your Republican Party history. That's the basics of understanding, first of all, the move that you're getting ready to make. And taking away that history and weigh what you see against what you see is or is not happening. And when you come in, be determined that you're going to bring some positive things to the table. And that if there's some things that are not positive, you got to come in and correct those things. And if it means staying there until you're 50, 60, or whatever, so be it. But you have to come in and you have to be true to who you are. And just like I would not want someone who believes a certain way to change just because I feel that way, because I think that you ought to have a right to your opinion. And so I would say to the young conservatives, and I'm not really, I don't use the labels, and I'm only using a label because you are, because I refuse to wear a label at all. I am a Republican who believes in truth. And I want to see good and positive things happen. And so wherever that takes me, that's whoever I am. And so if it makes me conservative, moderate, or liberal, I'm not interested in labels. I'm interested in doing what's right. And I would tell the African Americans, younger ones, be more interested in doing what's right and to be able to accept truth, even if it's about you. Accept that truth, because truth is really the foundation for liberty and freedom. And without truth, no man, no woman can be free.
I'm speechless. I have no other questions. Thank you very much, Dr. Hill. What you said during the luncheon yesterday,
oh goodness,
the crib notes version. So, go ahead and give me your full name and your current position, and then we'll take it from there.
My name is Jerry Molen, and I'm basically a semi-retired film producer. And I had the occasion to come here for the Pachyderm Club National Convention and the opportunity to address the crowd yesterday morning. So I think that's why I'm here anyway. Basically what I covered in my talk was the reason I'm here, because I feel so strongly and care so much about this great country of ours. And when I was first asked to join the Pachyderms up in my hometown of Kalispell, Montana, I felt, kind of interested in the whole idea because of their educational program and knowing that there weren't that many people out there that were aware of Pachyderms, because I sure wasn't. Since then, and the people I've met and understanding what their goals are, it gave me the impetus to move forward with the club and come here for the convention. In the speech, I just basically covered my background, the fact that I believe that I'm a good example of the American dream. There was someone that can believe in themselves and pick themselves up by the bootstraps and start out from nothing and still attain a dream or a goal. I covered that, and I guess that's about what I can think of right now.
There are a lot of people who are, there are a lot of young people who are, I guess, trying to figure out what their political identity is. And I think, Pachyderms as a group is reaching out to a lot of, I think, independent people, a lot of people who are Tea Party members. What kind of advice would you tell them as someone who is basically worked your way up to the business and reached the heights of your profession? Well, what would you say to someone who's starting out? How would they get involved in the Pachyderms, and what do you think they should expect?
Well, I think that anyone who wants to get involved with the Pachyderms, the first thing to do is attend a meeting, meet the people, find out what they're all about, because they do have a message. They do stand for the country. They stand for education. They stand for the freedoms that we all enjoy. So I think that that's the main thing. And for someone to want to, let's say, go to work in the motion picture business and have a dream also to get into entertainment, I think that anyone can do it. But the one thing I would suggest is get an education. Today you've got to have that to compete, and especially with the technology the way it is.
Social media has been really important recently, especially with Tea Party and a lot of the grassroots movements. What sort of social media have you seen that's been utilized in your own Pachyderm Club?
Well, social media is let me answer it this way. Social media is a very, very important element, I think, in politics today. It was very well utilized by the Obama campaign in 2008. I think we can all learn from that. I think that we need to step up and realize that we have that at our fingertips and that we should use it to our own advantage.
My children live on their smartphones, much to my chagrin. And I think a lot of times people my age and older who aren't used to communicating that way have a little trouble relating to them. But one of the sessions today pointed out that when you try to reach out to groups, that pachyderms need to look for people where they congregate and how they socialize and how they communicate. As someone who's been in media, who's produced films and whatnot, do you think this sort of application of technology is something that pachyderms need to focus on in the future?
I think the pachyderms need to stay up with the technology, and maybe that requires another reason why they should get out and get young people involved, because the old saying that you can't teach an old dog new tricks, I think there's a false premise there, because most of the senior citizens, especially around my age, the technology passes them up. So it's being smart enough, I think, to know that they need to bring people in who understand it, use it, and then they can walk them through it.
You grew up in a generation where the new technology was radio and newsreels were the way people got their information, and then there was this infant thing called TV that usually had an Indian head test pattern on there most of the time. What do you say to people who are skeptical of social media when you realize that at one point, we used these other technologies when they were the same equivalent? How would you try to convince someone who doesn't use it to consider it?
Well, look, I think that all people have to do is look at history. And when I go back as a youngster, I remember the first radio we got. I remember the first telephone we had on a wall had a hand crank on it. And the ring for our phone was 3 longs and a short. And it was a party line. They all knew the operator. But like in all things, technology moved forward. Now we carry our phone on our hip. And I think it's the same way in the social media. We can't even imagine what tomorrow's going to bring. And I think that we just need to be prepared the best we can to watch for it.
If you're hoping to get one message across, Jerry, to people in the audience yesterday, what would that message be to the people gathering here?
What would be the one message I want to get across? Believe in yourself. Believe in the country. I think that's it. I think the main thing is just believe in yourself, believe in the country, because it's everything is there for all of us. We just have to go for it and know that we can attain it.